Hi everybody, welcome to our first Google Plus Hangout of the year at the Buck Institute for Education on our new time, Tuesdays at noon Pacific time. I'm John Larmer, the Editor-in-Chief here at BIE. This is not a fur pillow in my lap, it's my dog Archie. He'll be quiet for the next 30 minutes, we hope. And our first Hangout of the 2014-2015 school year is on the topic of the Gold Standard Project-Based Learning. Theme for our whole month of September will be the gold standard for project-based learning. We'll talk for about 30 minutes, plus or minus a few. You can ask questions on the Google Plus events page, and we'll answer them after we're offline. This Hangout will be archived at BIE.org. You can watch it and spread the word afterward. And a blog by John Mergendoller is up as of today about the gold standard, and that's where you can offer comments on what we're talking about here today in this Hangout. So I'm joined today by two special guests, our board member and former CEO of the New Tech Network, Susan Schilling. Susan's had a lot of experience with the New Tech model of project-based learning. And our Executive Director, John Mergendoller, who, as I said, just wrote the blog about gold standard project-based learning, and he's the one who's driving our effort to establish and spread the word about a gold standard. So let's just start with the first question about why have a gold standard, and what is one, and why have one? So, John, what's your thinking?
Well, I want to step back in time a little bit and sort of provide a historical overview of how we got here and why we think it's important that we have a gold standard. And I'm going to go back to 1978 when this little...
1998.
98, thank you. 98. When this first publication of 34 pages called An Overview of Project-Based Learning was published by the Buck Institute. And in it, we tried to outline what we thought were the reasons for doing project-based learning, the components that led to its success, and the impact it had on students. Well, this was during the run-up to No Child Left Behind. There was not a great interest in more progressive instructional approaches, and we felt that we were just sort of shouting into the wind, that there were a small group of committed teachers that were trying project-based learning, but on a system-wide scale, this was not an instructional approach which was popular at all. Well, fast forward to 15 years. And suddenly project-based learning is all over the place. It's in newspaper articles about how school is going to be different this year. You do a Google search, you get 800,000 results with project-based learning. Our own workshops, our professional development workshops, where we have teachers come in and we spend 3 days with them, learning from them and then learning from us about project-based learning. They're oversubscribed. We can't provide enough of them. And so the tide has really turned. Project-based learning is very much in the news, it's in the classroom, and this is fantastic. But it also raises the problem whenever you get such a groundswell that the quality you're going to find is going to vary. And truth be told, project-based learning is a challenging instructional methodology. It needs to be done well. Otherwise, you run the risk of wasting teachers' time, students' time, and sort of spending your days messing around rather than engaging in rigorous learning. So we think it's time to step back a little bit and see if we can organize a discussion, a conversation about best practices in project-based learning, something that might be considered a gold standard.
Yeah, I've noticed, I mean, Common Core is another reason a lot of interest in project-based learning. And you see a lot of people these days, publishers and organizations, putting out things that are called projects in response to the Common Core. And we wonder about the quality of those things they're calling projects sometimes.
We make the distinction, as you know, between projects and activities. And I think if you walk into a lot of classrooms and talk to kids and teachers, they'll say, well, we're doing projects, but actually they're doing activities. They don't have the substance, the duration, the assessment that's necessary to really be an effective project.
Let's talk for a second about what a gold standard is, though. What's how's a gold standard used in other fields? And for example, I mean, originally it was tied to the value of $1, right? That's what a gold standard meant originally. But how do we think of a gold standard? What is it?
Well, I think of it as more or less synonymous with best practices. That is, these are the things that are going to make your teaching more effective, to make your learning deeper. They're the things which allow project-based learning to reach the goals of deep engagement and understanding. So we hope to, through discussion and creation of a gold standard of project-based learning, to bring to the fore the practices that really make a difference in the classroom.
Okay. And you mentioned different varieties of project-based learning we see out there, and things that are called projects, and some are like activities and so forth. There are publishers coming out with projects these days. There are a lot of networks of schools and districts that call themselves project-based learning oriented, like Expeditionary Learning and High Tech High, Envision Schools, EdVisions, the Asia Society has some project-based learning, and of course the New Tech Network. So, and they all have slightly different models of project-based learning, but we're saying you can draw some general principles from all these good practices.
Yes, I think one of the hallmarks of a gold standard is that it has to be inclusive. I mean, this is not. It has to be at a level of generalizability that what you're going after is a particular concept or way about thinking about things, and then once you get to a school model, be it New Tech, be it High Tech, be it Envisions, be it the English teacher over in room 201 on the second floor, that the actual practical implementation of how you do this, there's going to be some variation. So two defining characteristics of a gold standard, from my point of view at least, is that it is inclusive and it is aspirational. That is, it may not be something that happens 24 hours a day every time you do project-based learning, but it's something you're working toward. This is your goal. This is your guiding star that you're trying to make happen.
When we first started the New Tech Network, we knew we needed to have something out there that everybody agreed that's the end goal. It's kind of like we're going to Mars, right? And so we needed to put something out there. And so even before you got into the dialogue around the board and then with the strategic plan, we knew at New Tech that we needed to have help getting there, and it needed to be bigger than us. So we used the BUCK training materials from the very beginning so that we had a common vocabulary and we had a common definition of what were the major components that teachers needed to be prepared to do, and what were the major ways that teachers need to look at student behavior in order to see if whether really deep learning was happening. And we took it a little bit a step further. We have then the technology tools that helped the teacher and the student get a common look at all of the different component parts that made up the project and standardized across that, because if we were going to grow as fast as we hoped we were going to grow, we needed to have some way to talk in a common way to each other.
So there was kind of, in effect, a gold standard in the New Tech Network for project-based learning,
which was the Buck Institute template and the training, and and then we basically just have tried to refine that and give a common look to it because of the fact that the New Tech Network was wall-to-wall project-based learning, which is different, and it also had the technology component. Those were slightly different variations on a theme, but we took the major parts of what makes up a project and how do you assess a project and how do you create a project, taking guidance from the materials that you already had produced.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we talked to John. You mentioned that PBL is challenging. That's one of our fears, is that as it spreads so quickly, it's not an easy teaching method, and so if it backfires on teachers, it could wind up as yesterday's trend, like in your blog you mentioned open classrooms in the 70s, or when I was teaching in the late 80s, early 90s, outcome-based education. You can reel off a lot of these things that have come and gone, and we think project-based learning is here to stay as a 21st century teaching method, but and we talk sometimes among ourselves, if suddenly thousands and thousands of teachers out there, tens of thousands, are trying to do project-based learning and it doesn't work, it might either shrink a little in how widespread it is, or there'll be a lot of things out there that really aren't high quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think those are apt concerns. I think that, I mean, there's two or three issues embedded in this. One is that for project-based learning to be most effective, it needs to be done within a sympathetic environment and school structure. And that's one great advantage that New Technology Network or High Tech High or any of the other school models have, is that they're creating a school which is hospitable to the classrooms within it and the teachers' goals within it, and the administrators know what the teachers are trying to achieve, and they can help them get the resources and that they need. So I mean, that's clearly one aspect, but then the other aspect is sort of the knowledge of what am I trying to achieve. Okay, this project-based learning sounds groovy, we're going to get kids working on projects, now what? And so it's the best practices aspect of trying to call out what it is which makes a difference in kids' learning and kids' engagement. And I think that there are, common, for example, grouping strategies. Whether you're at New Tech Network, whether you're at High Tech High, whether you're in Classroom 201, and this might lead to a certain set of best grouping practices that would make it easier for teachers to implement project-based learning if they were aware of that.
Yeah. So it's easier within a network like New Tech or High Tech High or Envision, what have you. They can kind of set their own gold standard and have fairly good high-quality practice. But for the general public, that's where there's a need for some kind of a common standard.
Well, yes, I would agree with that. But I mean, I'm hopeful. We haven't talked about how the gold standard will be developed, but I am hopeful that it will be of use even within existing school networks. We very much want to learn from the networks that are functioning right now and from the teachers that are implementing project-based learning right now. Our idea is to set out our initial thinking and then ask for comment. And you began at this hangout saying that here's how you can comment on what was said and make suggestions, give us a critique, throw out new ideas. We want to act in a collaborative, sort of crowdsourced approach, not just define this is the way it is, but here's our best thinking on it. What do you think? Give us your critique and your answers and your questions.
And how do we envision the gold standard being used then? I mean, in practical terms, will it be something that's we're not going to be giving a seal of approval on things.
No.
It's more of an aspiration, as we said, an aspirational document. And so teachers, instructional coaches, administrators, districts can use it as a way to sort of guide their efforts. Is that?
Yeah, I think it can be something which can guide professional development. That's sort of the way you were speaking about your original use of something like a gold standard. I think it could be used for PLCs and some sort of self-study or self-reflection on how does my practice match what is considered to be best practices. I think that it might eventually lead to some sort of certification, but I don't see the Buck Institute doing that. Schools might want to. They might want to say, this is the way that we're going to do project-based learning. And then it would sort of be up to them how they would use it.
I think there's definitely the aspirational part, but I think the best practices is where you get that continuous improvement on an individual level, that I'm getting better and better at creating projects that engage my students, that are relevant to them, that are based on things that they know and that they can then take forward and learn new things from. And it takes time to become good at project-based learning. And so the best practices are kind of the instruction manual in some ways of, how do you put this together for maximum effect?
John, you mentioned this already, but I want to sort of make sure we talk about the process by which we're going to develop the gold standard and get input. So all this year, pretty much, we're going to be gathering input from the public, from people on our blog commentary, as well as other organizations, and then about next June at PBL World at the conference, you think it'll be time to unveil it?
Well, I really want to encourage input from the field. We're going to do everything we can. We're going to use all of our social networks to get people to respond with their ideas, their suggestions, their questions, their critique. I think a virtual approach to getting input is going to be the most effective way that will be most effective. Secondly, we're going to convene some meetings with expert practitioners and representatives of organizations that are committed to project-based learning, like New Tech Network, like some of the other schools that you mentioned. And I'm not exactly sure how many meetings, but we'll definitely have a couple. And then we'll put this together and have a great reveal at PBL World, June 23rd through 29th, I think, 2015, that week at least. And this will be version 1.0. It doesn't mean it's exactly right, but it's as right as we can be at that point. And then I think, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we probably will want to engage in the process again. See if our ideas still hold, see if things have changed. Because, Susan, you mentioned a learning organization. I mean, we see this gold standard definition as being, grist for the mill of continuous improvement and continuous reflection and analysis, and is this just the right way to think about it? So this is certainly not a closed process.
Yeah, I can see once it hits the field and people use it for a couple of years, there could be a lot of ideas generated about how to revise it and change it, talk about the various elements of it. Yeah, so I think I could see versions 1.0 through 2, 3, and beyond over the years.
Absolutely.
Got our work cut out for it.
Yep.
All right, so I think we're pretty good to go. Anything else you want to say about offering comments? We said, folks, the blog is the best place to offer comments on sort of the first part of the comments we'd like to hear from you about is, do you see the need for a gold standard? How could you see a gold standard being useful to the field? And then in future blogs, we'll talk more about what our thinking is about what the gold standard actually is. What are the elements of good project-based learning and good project-based teaching? So we'll invite commentary on those too as we go.
Right. So we will have specific aspects of the gold standard that we'll discuss each month, okay, and use that as a platform to get as much comment and critique as we can.
All right. Well, thank you. Anything else you want to say for the good of the order?
Yes.
Yeah.
PBL World, the correct dates are June 22nd through 26th in Napa, California. It's the world's greatest PBL professional learning event. So
stay tuned for how to register. That starts happening in early 2015. So thanks for joining us today then. I'll wrap up just by reminding you this has been archived. It'll be archived on the BIE website. And check out John's blog there on Gold Standard PBL, which goes over many of the things we discussed today. And we invite your comments. If you have any questions, put them on the Google Plus events page. We'll answer them after we're offline. And our next hangout is next Tuesday, September 9th, and Tuesday the 23rd at noon Pacific time. So we'll see you at those hangouts, also on the topic of Gold Standard project-based learning. So thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you next time.